Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are digging into a question that, on the surface, feels almost like a daydream.
Right, like something you'd brainstorm on a slow afternoon.
Exactly. It came from a listener and it really stuck with us. The question was, what's the best country to move to right now for a family of 5, including neurodivergent, queer, and gender expansive people?
It's such a hopeful question, isn't it? You can feel the dream behind it. Better schools, a safer community.
Yeah, but as we started digging into the source material, it became clear that for so many families, that daydream has this quiet ache to it.
Mm-hmm. Because the reality is, relocation isn't just about picking a place on a map.
Not at all. To even be in a position to ask that question, you need to have so much already. You need money, real liquid cash, safety nets, the right kind of job skills.
And the right passport. That's a huge one. A passport that opens doors, not one that closes them.
And that really is the core of what we're looking at today. Most of these conversations are about visas, or housing markets.
But this deep dive is all about language. Specifically, how certain people like Gestalt Language Processors process language in a way that just completely clashes with the timelines that immigration systems demand.
So the question shifts. It stops being which country?
And it becomes something much more fundamental. It becomes, could I even speak myself into existence there?
Okay, so let's unpack that. This idea of choosing a country. It's a fantasy, really.
It is. It assumes a level of mobility that most people on Earth just don't have. The sources are incredibly clear on this. You don't choose a country.
Countries choose you.
Exactly.
So.
The systems do the sorting. The moment your family profile includes complexity, neurodivergence, queerness, disability, you get put into a different lane.
And you're immediately sorted by these structural gatekeepers.
Yeah, and it's not even personal at first. It's an algorithm of, can you afford it? Do you fit into this very specific visa category? Have you passed the health assessment?
It's a calculation, a cold calculation of whether you're going to be an asset or a burden.
That's the language. And to really get it, you have to see the borders that aren't on any map. The sources talk about 3 of them. First, you have the economic borders.
Right, the obvious one. The application fees, the flights, the proof of funds. It's a huge barrier.
A massive one.
Yeah.
Then there are the ideological borders.
What does that mean exactly?
It's about whether you fit the preferred identity of the country.
Yep.
Are you the skilled tech worker they want, or are you seen as, well, as importing a problem?
And for queer and gender expansive people, that can change overnight depending on the political climate.
Instantly. And the third one is the bureaucratic border. The maze. Who has the energy, the stamina to deal with the endless paperwork and interviews?
So long before you're even thinking about learning the language, the system has already formed an opinion about you based on your money, your identity, and your resilience.
Yes. And if you make it through all of that, you run headfirst into the next wall language.
And this is where we have to take apart that old myth, the one that says just learn the language.
Oh, that one is so dangerous. Because it assumes language learning is linear, like you just download vocabulary and grammar rules.
But for a lot of people, it just doesn't work that way.
Absolutely not. And this is where we need to talk about Gestalt Language Processing, or GLP.
So for anyone who's not familiar, what's the difference?
Well, most people learn analytically. You learn words, you put them together using grammar. A Gestalt Language Processor starts with the whole chunk, the whole melody.
Like a line from a movie.
Exactly.
Okay.
Or a phrase a parent says all the time. They absorb that whole gestalt and use it to communicate a feeling or a need long before they can break it down into individual words.
So for a GLP adult trying to learn a new language, it's a whole different ballgame. It's not just adding new words.
No, it's one of the sources describes it as growing a new internal climate. You're literally rebuilding the entire architecture of meaning from the inside out.
Wow. That sounds monumental.
It's an identity reconstruction.
Yeah.
And the key thing is it cannot be rushed.
Okay, so let's walk through that timeline, because this is where the clash with immigration really happens.
It starts with what's called the Gestalt gathering phase. And this is often a silent phase.
Silent.
Mostly, yeah. The person is just absorbing tone, rhythm, cadence. They're taking it all in. And this isn't a few weeks. Depending on how safe they feel, how much sensory overwhelm there is, this can last 4 months, 6 months, even a year.
A year of being mostly quiet in a new country. I can't even imagine the stress of that.
It's immense. After that comes recombination. That's the slow, hard work of pulling those big chunks of language apart into smaller pieces you can actually use creatively.
And how long does that take?
It can take another 6 to 18 months. It's a huge cognitive lift.
So we're already potentially 2.5 years in. When do you get to the point where you can, argue with a landlord or explain your child's needs to a doctor?
That's what the source is called deep expressive fluency. And this is the staggering part. That often doesn't show up until years 2 through 5.
Wait, 2 to 5 years? But an immigration department wants to interview you at 6 months. They expect you to be integrating, working. That timeline is from a different planet.
It is. And there's the collision. What do you do in that gap? During those long, fragile years, the GLP is in this linguistic limbo. They understand a lot more than they can say.
Their ability to advocate for themselves is just gone.
Completely compromised. And if you're parenting a neurodivergent kid in that state, trying to navigate a new school system, the gap becomes dangerous.
So you've got this slow, patient, unfolding GLP rhythm.
Crashing into the immigration rhythm, which is abrupt, demanding, and totally unforgiving.
The system just reads it all wrong.
It misinterprets everything. That quiet gathering phase, that's read as you're not trying, you're failing to integrate.
And the scripted limited speech you can manage.
That's seen as incompetence. Or worse, it's seen as being untrustworthy, like you're hiding something. Bureaucracy needs quick, clear answers, and a GLP can't provide that yet.
And once you get flagged as untrustworthy in that system, it's a nightmare. It creates this trauma loop.
It does. The source material calls it a period of translation without ownership. Misunderstandings pile up faster than you can possibly clear them.
And the system defaults to its own assumptions. It assumes linear comprehension. It assumes you understand even when you can't articulate a response.
Which means services get denied, applications get delayed, and the family is left completely vulnerable.
That inability to own the language is a weapon used against you. Okay, let's shift to the other barriers, the ones that aren't about language at all. The shadow bureaucracies.
Right. We have this idea of safe countries, but when you look closer, that idea just falls apart.
Because safety isn't one-dimensional.
Not at all. And a perfect example is ableism functioning as economic exclusion. You see it in national health systems all the time.
How so?
An autism diagnosis, even in a fully self-sufficient adult, gets flagged as a financial liability, a projected cost to the state.
And the sources have that really stark personal example of this, right? With the author's own experience trying to claim UK citizenship.
Yes, it's a crucial story. They had a right to a passport through inheritance, but the UK Crown denied it.
And the reason was explicitly their autism diagnosis.
Explicitly. The logic was that even though they weren't a burden now, they might, at some point in the future, become a burden on the public purse. The diagnosis was used as a predictive tool to deny entry.
So your medical reality is used to preemptively exclude you financially, even if you're completely independent.
That's the quiet violence of it. The economic border never really goes away. And then there's the other layer, arriving as a symbol.
The passport problem, the ugly American stereotype that follows you around.
It absolutely does. Your passport carries a whole history of geopolitics and cultural baggage that you, as an individual, have to answer for.
And the sources point out how that changes depending on where you are and what you look like.
Wildly. The author talks about being in Heidelberg. And because their cadence sounded vaguely German, a gestalt they picked up from expat parents, they could blend in.
But in South Africa, it was a totally different story.
Completely. There, being large, pale, and Western meant something very specific and very loaded because of the history of apartheid. No amount of linguistic effort could change what their bodies symbolized in that context.
So you're dealing with all of this at once. You're trying to find a place with, say, trans healthcare, good ND schools, and queer safety.
And every single one of those needs intersects with this incredibly long, slow timeline of GLP language learning. Your margin for error just shrinks to nothing.
Which means you have to reframe the entire question. The sources suggest a powerful shift.
The GLP reframe. It's a beautiful idea.
You stop asking what country is best, and you start asking,
what environments allow my gestalts to root, recombine, and flourish? Where can I be safe enough to do this deep internal work?
So the practical questions become, where can I learn at my own pace without being punished for being quiet?
Exactly. Where can my family stay long enough for language to become embodied, to become a home inside my body, instead of just a tool for survival?
Because language learned under that kind of constant threat is brittle.
It is. And when you ask that question, you run into a very uncomfortable structural truth. Most countries don't offer that kind of environment.
Unless
you meet one very specific condition.
you have a substantial amount of liquid cash.
Bingo. This is where the golden visas come in. The investor visas. Residency by investment.
These are basically programs designed to sell entry and time to the super rich.
They are the solvent. They dissolve all the barriers we've been talking about. We're talking about huge sums like 6.2 million US dollars for Malta or 5 million New Zealand dollars.
And what does that money buy you?
It buys you out of the asset or burden question. It overrides the suspicion about an autism diagnosis or a queer family structure. It tells the state, you don't have to worry about our future cost. We've prepaid.
But most importantly, it buys time.
It buys time. The one resource a GLP absolutely needs. It buys you the 2, 3, 5 years you need for your language to settle without the crushing weight of survival.
The sources are clear, though. It doesn't buy you everything.
No. It doesn't guarantee you a community. It doesn't shield you from individual prejudice, from ableism or transphobia on the street.
But it gets you through the structural gate. The ability to migrate gently, it turns out, isn't about finding the right country. It's about having enough capital to buy yourself a pause.
And that's really the final takeaway. Migration is less a movement across space and more a metamorphosis of the self. And belonging isn't something a country gives you.
It's something that grows, but only in an environment that refuses to rush you.
It needs patience.
And for anyone listening who feels this, the core truth is you deserve a life where your language, your way of being, isn't a liability. You deserve a place where you don't have to rebuild yourself in fear just to survive.
And that leaves us with a final thought to carry forward. If time is the most essential currency for belonging, how could we rethink immigration? How can we grant time to those without capital and give them the dignity of becoming at their own necessary pace?